Alright, so to just recap my example, the difficulty for jumping across a chasm is determined by the width of that chasm, but other things might make it harder than the normal set difficulty. If you're being shot at by 24 stormtroopers, that might make that jump harder. If both sides of the ledge are slick with ice, that might make that harder. So the setback and boost dice are situational modifiers to the set difficulty of the action you're attempting to perform. The most basic example would be aiming. The difficulty to make a ranged attack is determined by how far away something is from you. But if you aim, you get a boost die, because it's a better situation to aim at the person you're trying to shoot before shooting at them. So that's basically the difference between setback and difficulty dice, and it's something that the GM has to constantly think about setback dice. Not only because it's important to make checks more interesting, but also because there are a lot of talents in the game that allow PCs to remove setback dice, and it's important to honor the XP cost of those talents by making sure that they do get some use. So that's basically the difference.
Awesome, yeah. And actually someone in chat pointed out, and it's a really interesting thing to point out, is that success, you don't have to succeed in order to get advantage, or you could succeed and have some threat. So you can succeed, for example, at shooting someone, but you received so much threat that, I don't know, so for example, another person gets a boost die against you because you weren't paying attention to them, or it's basically some narrative things that can happen. So it's you succeed, but something bad still happens, or alternatively, you can fail, but you get enough advantage to do something interesting that helps the situation. So there's a lot of different combinations, and you'll see throughout the campaign, and even through the last campaign that we did, that there's some really interesting rules that come out, and we take a minute to ponder how do we adjudicate what these rules actually mean, what makes the most sense for the story, for the results we get. So it's never just a straight this happens, this happens, this happens. It's really up to the players and the GM to kind of create a story together, and using the dice to kind of help guide the way we're going. Josh or Strong Gauntlet also mentioned that some dice pools are dictated by distance. So a lot of fighting in these systems are ranged, and it's not a typical grid that you would use for things like D&D or Pathfinder. It's all very schematic, just like the dice are. They're not very set in stone. It's the same with distance. So you're at short, medium, long, and is it extreme range? Is that what they use the word?
Yes.
Range. So basically at short range, the difficulty is less. So you'd have 1 purple dice. At medium, it's a little bit harder. You have 2 purple. At long, you have 3. And so the distance basically builds your pool. But there's never I moved 6 squares to get to the enemy. That's my movement speed. It's essentially 1 distance from short to medium is a maneuver action. And then from medium to long, I believe is that 2 maneuvers, Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 maneuvers. And similar to other D20 systems, your turn consists of 1 action and 1 maneuver, and then there are swift as well. So that's pretty standard for other RPG systems that you see. The other interesting thing that I'll mention about this system is initiative. So you use initiative in this system. There's 2 different types of rolls you can make, either cool or vigilance. And you use one or the other depending on whether or not you know you're going into an encounter or whether or not you're surprised by the encounter. And then what happens there is you roll your skill, and the whole party, so in this case there's 4 of us, so we'd all have 4 different results. But the same person doesn't have to go on their result. It just becomes a pool. So you as a party get to decide what order you act in. So it allows the encounter to roll out a little bit more fluidly than just, a system where you say, okay, I delay until after so-and-so goes. It allows us to work together as a party.
If you've ever played a more traditional RPG, you've probably had that situation where you usually want, the wizard or the rogue to go first. Sometimes the cleric will roll a natural 20 on their initiative roll, and they're going first, and they're like, guys, what do I do?
Quick, heal someone.
Exactly, right? And then you end up like a game like that would normally allow them to delay their turn or whatever, and it all kind of gets messy. But in this setting, it's literally just whoever wants the first PC initiative slot, the group decides who's going to take it. They take it. Everybody acts once a round. When you get to the bottom of the round, you can redo it. So you could go first every time, or maybe next round your group decides no, like we want to have this person go first. And that's pretty much how it shakes out. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense from a logical perspective, because it allows the party to talk together and prioritize something. They could say, like, hey, we really think it's important that we shut this door right now. The best person to do that is Palomi, so Palomi should go first. Whereas in other systems, you might be like, well, we're all going before Palomi, so everyone get in front of the door. and it just causes weird things to happen that don't make logical sense. Yeah, that's initiative is fun in this system. It's very obvious. Like you roll out the slots and then you decide who takes them, and it really just tries to keep the action going. I think that's why I like it.
Yeah, what I love about this system is how flexible it is in its movement, in its roles, and its initiative. It's basically this system, instead of dictating how the story rolls out, it gives you the tools to create your own story. And I think that's the best way I can sum up how the core mechanic of the system works. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to GM Throne Gauntlet to go over character creation rules. So bring up the character sheets that we're going to be building through and some example of different classes. So if you want to switch over.
Did you want me to go over the specific rules for Age of Rebellion?
I think it might be better if we go over how to create a character, because I think the Age of Rebellion rules are specifically generated to the characters. So I think
part of it, yeah.
It's
part of character creation. Okay.
Yeah. And just so you guys know, before we go into it, character creation for this is pretty standard in that you pick a race and then you pick a class. And then everything you have, your skills, your abilities, your talents are all based off of the class and the race that you pick, as well as any specializations for your class. So with that, we'll switch the screen over to the character sheet, and we'll let our GM go through what it is to character create.
Are you ready to come with me to the next screen, Dark, and leave everybody behind?
Yeah, everyone's being left behind. Bye, guys.
Let's go.
You'll hear me from behind, but
it didn't work.
No.
Wow.
It didn't work.
I think you might have to pull up your.
It got wrecked.
Oh no!
Apparently it's just me.
I like how you guys are just seeing it. Oh, it might happen. This might happen.
I think it's happening.
This might happen.
Here comes.
Did we see the character sheet? Maybe. And the talents.
I know about this, you guys.
So this isn't a typical screen we have for our cast.
Oh my, how embarrassing.
Kind of a last minute decision on our part to help you guys see the character sheet and the talent trees that we use to build our characters. So before we, okay, I think we're good.
I'm working on it, guys. I'm hacking the Gibson for all of us.
I guess I'll talk a little bit about too what we're actually using to stream this. We're actually using Roll20. If you haven't used their program before, so all of the dice rolling that you see will be Roll20. What's really nice about this is you can actually create your character right into the Roll20 site and calculate all of your rolls there. So basically at a click of a button, we can do our rolls and it automatically cancels out and calculates it. So for example, if you play actual physical dice, physical tabletop, and you're rolling a big pool like I did, you then have to kind of group all of your dice together and cancel out and kind of math out what the result is. What's nice about Roll20 is it does all of that for you, which is pretty great. I actually also have an app on my phone whenever I play the physical game because it does the same thing. So the dice are really cool, but when your pools get really big, it is somewhat hard to adjudicate. So thank you to Roll20 for creating something that allows us to bring this to you without having to spend 5 minutes every time we roll to figure out what the result actually is, because no one wants to watch that.
All right, I got this set up.
All right.
Actually good.
People mentioned in chat too, Josh, that your mic is a bit low. I don't know if you have a way to boost it a little bit.
My
If
mic
not.
is low.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're a little bit quiet.
I can definitely boost it.
Yeah, if you can
You
boost
sound alright to us, I think. I think it's just stream.
Yeah. I did notice the last episode we did too, you were a little bit quiet compared to us, but you were still able
Okay.
to-
Hopefully this is not extremely loud.
Awesome. All right,
Okay.
so have your screen set up.
Yeah,
You're hearing
we're
my
actually-
voice, and it's not coming out of Stark, who's drinking his coffee right now. Those two voices do not match.
It's water. Yes.
Sorry, water.
Yes, with a T in it.
Okay, awesome. So the reason Stark is on this as opposed to my voice in the background is because he's actually one of the people who's chosen what career he's actually going forth with. So we're going to use him as an example for how to generate the character. And then we'll get into the fun stuff where we start with our concepts and the story and all that kind of stuff. So I will hand it over to John Outlet.
All right, so let me know on stream if the volume is really loud. I just put mic boost on. Anyways, as for character creation, we didn't actually do character creation on stream last time, but many of the same rules that you would use to create an Edge of the Empire character, you will also use to create an Age of Rebellion character. And the same goes for Force and Destiny. So if you're watching this and you're like, hey, I think the dice system looks cool, I like Star Wars, but I think Force and Destiny is more my thing. Don't worry, because this process is basically the same, with a couple key exceptions for all three systems. And the exceptions are the things that I'll point out as we go along, which are basically what differentiates the system from another. So, in terms of character creation, obviously, how you create a character is determined a little bit by why you're creating the character. Is it because you love this tree and you think that you really want to be a diplomat? Maybe you really want to be a Wookiee. And you're like, okay, I'm going to be a Wookiee, but what do I do from there? Maybe you've decided what role you're going to fill in a party. You can say, I'm going to be the medic, but you don't know what race or class you should use to do that. In any case, the book tells you to start by determining your character's background. For the purposes of the background, it's interesting because it tells you to basically start with the story for your character instead of the mechanics for your character, which is something I like about the system. It depends, like, it's not for every player. Some players are, probably more likely to create an idea for a character, like, I want to be this ex-Imperial Security Bureau agent, and then they'll come up with something that fits that. So the book suggests you come up with a background. There's no actual mechanical parts of the background, but it does give you a lot of great ideas, and all three of the books do this. It gives you a lot of great ideas for why a character would be in this position. Are they perhaps are they Alderaanian? Are they now one of a few thousand Alderaanians who were off planet when their planet was destroyed and they want to avenge that? Are they perhaps people who are professional revolutionaries? Maybe they're mercenaries or anarchists. So it gives you some good starting points. And it also asks you, why would you join the rebellion at all? Because in the grand scheme of things in Star Wars, the rebellion is heavily outmatched in both in manpower, military equipment, arguably in intelligence gathering capabilities. Like, why? What? You're putting your life on the line the moment you join the rebellion, so why? The step 2 of this process is the unique thing about Age of Rebellion. And you need to determine what your duty to the rebellion is. And this is important because it's what your character thinks the rebellion needs to accomplish. So, obviously, ultimate victory is probably something that you want, but you can't choose that as your duty. You need to pick something a little bit more specific. So, examples of this would include just combat victory, like they want to prove that the rebellion can win on the ground against the Empire. Maybe they're focused on recruiting, finding new people to join the rebellion. Perhaps they believe that sabotage is the best way to fight the Empire. Not only by reducing their resources through cloak and dagger type manipulation can the Empire be defeated. Maybe they realize that the best way to defeat the Empire is to have better technology than the Empire. Arguably, we see that in Episode 4 as the X-Wing fighter is 1-for-1 more than a match for the TIE fighter. It has shields also, which is nice for the person inside of it. So that duty determines what it is that your character believes the rebellion must do to win this conflict, this lopsided conflict against the Empire. So you choose that in Step 2. It might be hard for some people to choose in Step 2, truthfully, if they kind of don't know where their character's going. One thing I always recommend with duty is pick something that you really think is fun. Yeah, if you're a combat medic, you might think, personnel, that makes sense, right? I don't want to leave people behind. And that might be great for your character, but consider other options. Especially consider where your character came from. If you're a former spy, you might understand that internal security is a very important thing, even if you're not a spy now. So that is the duty mechanic at a glance. Now, when you're actually in play, there will be opportunities for characters to have to choose how far they're willing to go for this duty. Perhaps you're on a mission doing a different objective, and you notice that there are a group of dissidents that might be recruited to the rebellion. But doing so might be dangerous, may compromise your primary mission, or might make it more difficult to do what you're already trying to do for the rebellion, and you have to choose how important that duty is to you. There are some small mechanical benefits to duty. I don't want to go over it too much right now, but suffice it to say that if you are able to accomplish your duty regularly, it's good for your character. And there's also the possibility every session, at the beginning of the session, I will secretly roll dice to see whose duty should enter play for that session specifically. And then as the GM, I'm supposed to work that into the session. Now, Edge of the Empire had a similar mechanic called obligation, which is kind of the opposite of this, which is what you owe and why you are a criminal. I decided not to use that mechanic during play in the same way because I felt like it could drive us off track substantially. And in any case, I was pretty much already using Stark's duty for the entire arc, which was that he was a stolen protocol droid that had enhanced military capabilities that the Empire wanted back more than anything. So that was sort of a constant presence in the whole arc. I didn't roll obligation at the beginning. I will be rolling duty, and it will be secret. So not even the players will know if their duty triggers. I'm going to give them an opportunity to either fill that duty to the rebellion or else pass it up in favor of some other opportunity. Once the entire duty score of the party exceeds 100 points, the party's contribution rank goes up, which means that the rebellion is pleased with their progress and they want to reward them. And additionally, your standing in the rebellion kind of goes up. Like, people start noticing you. You're like, hey, you're those guys who stole those plans. And that's mechanically kind of how... So as everybody gets duty, the contribution rank of the party goes up. And you're given rewards. And eventually, you may even ascend to the highest ranks of Rebellion Command. So that is Step 2. Step 3 is select a species. I'm not going to go in-depth on species, but basically most species give you a bonus to a stat, a penalty to a stat, and you get 2 in all the other stats. And then there's usually some kind of side benefit, like you get a skill. A quick example, Bothans have a negative to brawn. They are kind of wiry, and you don't really see Bothan bodybuilders that often, I guess.
I think you should. I think that would be amazing. I think I'm going to do that for my character now, Bothan bodybuilder, all the way.
I mean, you could do it. You can spend XP to increase your stats, which we'll go over later. So you could build a Bothan bodybuilder if you want to. It's just that they're not naturally inclined to being a bodybuilder, so they take a penalty to brawn. They also get a benefit to cunning, because, sneaky Bothans, right? They're known to be spies naturally. So, and then they get a rank in Streetwise, which is knowing what's going on street level. So that's just a basic example. Some are more complicated. Humans and droids are both more complicated because droids get a lot of starting XP, but all their stats start at 1, because typically a droid is built for a very specific purpose. right? You don't build a droid to be kind of an all-around droid. You build a protocol droid, or you build a killer astromech with a flamethrower in it, or you build a piloting droid or something. But you typically don't try and build a well-rounded droid because they're built for one specific purpose. So that's pick a race. Race can have other implications for your character, but they would mostly be like role-playing implications. The other thing to remember is, in the Age of Rebellion, during the Galactic Civil War, aliens are not well treated by the Empire, and often aren't high-ranking employees. So for infiltration, a complete group of aliens might be difficult. Because, seeing a Bothan wearing an Imperial uniform would be rather unusual in most circumstances. So, that's race. And past that, we have choose your career and specializations. I don't want to go too in-depth right now, because we're going to see a few of these. We're going to see at least Diplomat Ambassador, which is over here on the screen. And basically, these talent trees are kind of like what you would see in an MMO if you've ever played. You played World of Warcraft way back. Basically, by spending XP, you can go down the tree and get additional abilities. Now, these abilities aren't increasing your stats usually, but they give you other options. So, for example, the Ambassador tree on the far right, second row, has the dodge ability, which allows them to take a dodge incidental to become harder to hit, essentially. And so a tree gives you these kinds of abilities, and as you go further down the tree, the talents cost more and more XP, and at the bottom of most trees in the game is a talent called Dedication, which increases one of your characteristics by 1. And characteristics are the primary way through which you make dice pools. And after character creation, you can't spend XP to increase your characteristics. So this is a super valuable talent. And you can see that that's in the third column at the very bottom of the Ambassador tree. So that is career and specializations. Now, what you choose as your career determines what specializations you have access to. So Stark has decided on the Diplomat career, but he's chosen the Ambassador specialization. There are other specializations within Diplomat, but Stark has chosen to be an Ambassador. And if I'm correct, perhaps a fishy Ambassador.
Yeah.
Nice. So choosing a career not only gives you access to this tree, but if you look below Ambassador, you'll see you'll get bonus career skills. So you get a certain amount of those for free at character creation. Like I said, I'll go into that in more depth in a moment. Character creation, sorry. Skipping ahead to the next section here to make sure I'm doing it all in order. So that. Oh, and there's one other thing I should mention. So at character creation, you choose a career and you choose a specialization. There's also one universal tree in Age of Rebellion called Recruit. This tree can be bought into with XP by anyone. It gives them a certain baseline amount of combat skills and rebellion training. So if you have an Edge of the Empire character who is maybe a pilot, they end up joining the rebellion. This is a good tree to take because it kind of it eases another character into a military life. They get a bunch of good career skills. They get the addition to add even more career skills in their tree. But basically, from a role-playing perspective, this is a character who isn't a member of a military organization, learning to function in one. So if you had a bounty hunter who decided to join the rebellion, they might take this tree because it gives them some things that would be expected of a standard rebellion recruit. Step 6 is to spend XP. We'll go over that in a little bit. Like I said, you can spend XP to get in a tree. You can spend XP on skills or on characteristics at character creation. Then step 7 is you just determine derived attributes, which is a fun way of saying figure out how many hit points you have and what your strain threshold is. And if you look on the character sheet on our left, those things are the 2 center boxes in that first row of boxes here. And so that determines how much damage you can take and how much mental strain you can take before passing out. You also determine things like soak values. So if you're really brawny or you're wearing armor, you have a high soak, which means you prevent some damage done to you when damage is dealt. And you also determine defense, which just makes you harder to hit. Step 8 is to determine your motivation, and this could be linked to your duty or it could not be. For example, if you were a scientist and maybe you lived on Alderaan. Your motivation for joining the rebellion is probably to get justice for Alderaan. But the method you think that the rebellion should use to win might be tech procurement, because you're a scientist. So you believe, we have the best cruisers in the galaxy, how could they defeat us, right? So those two things could be linked, but they aren't necessarily. It's up to you. And so there's a few tables of options. And then finally, you choose gear and appearance for your character. You get a certain amount of credits to buy gear. And step 10, we will not do. But it's for starting party. The party would choose either a squadron of Y-Wings, a base of operations, or a stolen Imperial shuttle. That is a party resource that they all get. And really, for the GM, this is the players telling you what kind of adventure they want, for the most part. If they say they want the Y-Wings, maybe they want a predominantly squadron-based space adventure, a la Rogue Squadron. If you've ever read the X-Wing books, you know how interesting the drama in a squadron of X-Wing pilots could be. And eventually, you can upgrade those Y-Wings to X-Wings, or even better, so don't worry about that. Base of operations is a base on a planet that you also get some additional credits. That's somewhere you can operate on a planet, and for many groups this would mean that they want to set the adventure in one specific place, and have a drama around that planet, at least for the moment. And the stolen shuttle is, of course, the stereotypical rebel strike team going on secret missions across the galaxy at high priority targets using stolen Imperial hardware, which is, of course, one of the great tropes of Star Wars from Return of the Jedi. And that's it for character creation at a glance. We're going to do a lot of it right now, so that's why I opted out of really going in-depth to the trees or anything, because you're going to see a lot. We're going to have a few different... I think everyone's in a different career, or everybody's thinking about going into a different career.
Yeah, and I just want to pull one thing to your attention while we have the character sheet up, is all of the different skills that you have. So astrogation, athletics, charm, coercion, etc., etc. You basically spend XP to put ranks in them, and it's cheaper to spend XP if those types of skills are within your specialization, more expensive if they're not. But this essentially is what makes your pool. So the more ranks you get, the more dice you have in your pool, or if you already have a lot of dice, the more yellow dice you get, which are more powerful than the green dice. So really, the skills are what dictate your dice pool. I just wanted to kind of point that part out before we switch off.
To quickly expand on that, it's a combination of your attribute, or your characteristic, and your skill. So if you have a 2 brawn, and you have 1 point in brawl, it means you start with 2 green dice, and then the 1 point in brawl upgrades one of those green dice to a yellow die. It's that simple. You just take the higher number, those are green dice, take the lower number, turn that many green dice into yellow dice. And that's the basic way that you form the positive part of your pool. So it's really that simple. So at character creation, there's a couple of different philosophies. Some people will go hyper specialized. So if you're building a Wookiee beat stick, you use brawn to attack people, and you get brawn to your soak. So brawn is actually a really great skill. So a lot of people will be like, alright, I'm going to spend all my XP becoming the brawniest Wookiee that ever walked the land. And that's good in combat, but then that kind of leaves you high and dry if someone needs to learn something about a droid, or convince an Imperial sympathizer not to start screaming. So some people go for the more well-rounded approach. With the human, it's possible to get 3s in 4 of the characteristics, 4 of the 6 characteristics. And that's my preferred approach if I play a human, is to be very well-rounded, but can contribute in a wide variety of scenarios. But it's really up to the player and how they envision their character. But that's basically how the pool is made, and a couple of philosophies for character creation. I always encourage the player to do what feels right for the character they've envisioned. But from a purely mechanical sense, I like having a well-rounded character because I don't like having to sit out of too much action in the game. But I mean, ultimately, it's the player's preference for their character.
Awesome. So why don't we flip back to where you can see all of our group of rebels on the screen, And I noticed there's quite a few people who have joined us as of late. So just so you know, this is a special episode of what we're doing for Mynock Mysteries, in that we're doing our rules recap, going over character creation, and coming up with our characters for Age of Rebellion. We previously did 6 episodes where we did an Edge of the Empire campaign, and after this, we're going to be doing Force and Destiny. We know we've had some new followers come along the way, and just wanted to give you guys a recap so that you can follow along as we move forward with the story.
All right.
So I think with that, we can get into character creation. And just so you know, we kind of have a philosophy on this show that we like to come up with some character ideas before we build our characters mechanically, as opposed to the other way around. We're not really let's optimize our characters kind of group. We really want to make sure that we have a compelling story. So we're going to work through our background and then get into the mechanics of it to fit into it. And in order to do that, we asked our GM to give us a little bit of a background on what this campaign is going to be, so that we can kind of tailor our characters to make a little bit more sense for that campaign. So why don't you go over a bit of a recap, and then the GM is going to be quiet for the rest of it, mostly, maybe. More of us kind of decide what we want our character to be.
Okay, so to get started, you guys will be members of the Rebellion. You guys will actually be pretty established members of the Rebellion already. So from a group perspective, from a mechanical perspective, about contribution rank 4. So that means that you guys have seen some major victories already, and as the campaign starts, you guys are actually being trusted with a pretty important mission. That mission is to infiltrate an Imperial research facility in the Kuat system and verify information that has been given to the Rebellion by an Imperial defector. The information itself is kind of unbelievable, so that's why it's so important that Rebel High Command confirm this with you guys. And you guys will be infiltrating it. The exact method by which you will infiltrate and the distraction I will not give to you at this moment, because I don't want anybody to min-max a specific skill. But we'll probably start the game in the action, like in the middle of the action. Like you guys are on the research station, the first explosion goes off, etc. Very close to the first explosion goes off, and we'll jump right into the action, because I feel like Age of Rebellion, there's intrigue, obviously there's going to be political and social drama, but at the end of the day, the war against the Empire requires that somebody take up arms, get out there and fight the Empire on the front lines. So we will, of course, have opportunities for other skills, but I want to start on a high octane action note. Things that your characters could be connected to that'd be interesting for the campaign. I have a few. So if anybody wants to have a sibling that was taken by the Jedi Order for training, that would make you a little bit older than than I am, for sure. But that would make you a little bit older, but it's definitely a possibility that could be interesting both in this arc and the next arc. If anybody wants to have connections to the first Death Star in some way, that would be useful. To give you guys an idea of time period, I didn't explicitly state this on stream. This will be after Empire Strikes Back, but before Return of the Jedi. This will take place in that period. So connections to the first Death Star, either you knew someone on Alderaan, you helped design it, helped build it, any of those things. Maybe you helped destroy it. Maybe you were one of the pilots that was there. That's also fine. But a connection to the first Death Star would be interesting. Any sort of former Imperial defector could potentially be interesting. I really like this plot line, and I encourage, no one has to do this, obviously, but I really love the idea of somebody who sees a Death Star destroy Alderaan and goes, what are we doing? What are we fighting for if we just use a space station to blow up planets of pacifists? What are we doing? So I've played a few of those characters in the past, but I always think Imperial defectors are cool. And don't limit yourself to, I was a stormtrooper. You could be I was a member of the Imperial Royal Guard, and I defected. And it was the most dangerous thing I've ever had to do, because the Emperor is standing behind me all the time. Don't limit it to, main branches of the Imperial military. I would love to have a character who's okay at technology at the bare minimum, but I'm not mandating what kind of skills you guys have. I'll adjust the campaign a little bit in either direction, depending on what you guys want to do. Those are some hooks that I came up with, and I'm of course open to whatever backstory you guys want.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, someone mentioned in chat about making our characters to fit the campaign. It's not essentially that we're doing that. It's like the GM said, it's more hooks on what our characters are. And because of the nature of the show right now, we're doing 3 short story arcs in all of the 3 different settings. There are about 5 or 6 episodes each. We really want to make sure that we're kind of choosing characters that highlight that specific system. So, for example, all of the 3 systems are interchangeable. So you can be a Force user working with the criminal gangs in Edge of the Empire, or you can be a bounty hunter who's kind of working with the rebellion because they're paying him. There's a lot of cross compatibility with all of the systems, which is really great, and we're definitely going to do that once we get to the longer term campaign. But what we're really trying to do is focus the stories for these short campaigns of 5 to 6 sessions, and really highlight the systems in that way. So just in case you guys were wondering, we definitely have that in mind.
The other thing that I did not mention, and would be very open to, is if somebody had criminal connections, or specifically connections to Mandalorians or the planet of Mandalore. I'd be very open to that. I love Mandalorians. I'm a big nerd for Mandalorians.
Yeah, just because we have less time to develop characters, like 6 sessions, and I actually, the 6 sessions we did for Edge of the Empire, we did actually see quite a bit of character growth, but you don't typically see a lot of character growth in that amount of time. So we don't want to create a bounty hunter working with the rebels and only have 6 episodes to really have them grow to fit with the Age of Rebellion style, which is why we kind of wanted to have those hooks to kind of guide our character creation. But by no means is the GM telling us what we have to play. That's just kind of, we decided as a group prior that was the direction we were going to take. So.
And honestly, telling players what they have to play is a really bad idea for role-playing games anyway. So, I mean, obviously having some guidelines is good so that the campaign makes sense. But being like, you have to play a diplomat who's aligned with this planet. Like, I mean, is there a faster way to get a player to lose interest in a character? I don't know, maybe. But I haven't found it yet. Like, telling a player what to play is kind of gross. I don't like it. But we've all agreed that we want to play like a rebellion-focused arc, so that's the general framework in which we're building characters.
Yeah, so the 4 of us, the 4 players, we've actually had a chance to kind of talk about what we want our group to be. And Palomi, you kind of had the idea of doing like a special force strike team kind of thing. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, it sounded like from the different careers and stuff that we were thinking about, it seems like we resemble something of a force or strike team, just because we each have our own specific specialization. For example, I'm going to be sort of the Dr. Medic character, whereas I think we had a pilot. I think it was Game Face Killer who wanted to be the pilot, but basically it seemed like that our team would go, since we're a group that works together and we're so varied in our specialties, basically, we would be more of a strike team because our various skills make it easier for us to do that.
Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. I mean, it kind of fits with what the story was too, right? Like we're not joining kind of like a big battle, a big group of people. We're kind of like our own group, right? So we're kind of trying to find ties to one another. So kind of being that special ops team, it allows us to kind of like all be connected early on too, as opposed to being like, you guys are rebels. Enjoy fighting together and learning who each other are. Kind of gives us like a little bit of a connection.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, there's definitely the place for like a grittier, like trench ground type of military campaign where you guys are all just anonymous soldiers and you like grow to know each other. But I don't think that's really what we're aiming for, anyways. It's something we could do, but it doesn't sound like that's what we're aiming for, anyways. So, and the idea of a strike team is really cool. It fits within established rebellion lore. The Alliance Special Forces, also called Spec Force, employs a number of different kinds of regiments of strike teams. And it, depending on how it shakes out, we could definitely put you guys in one of these regiments. The Pathfinders are potentially an option, which are masters of covert operations, and are often the first Spec Force units that are deployed to a battlefield. So also for scouting and reconnaissance purposes. But depending on where the group shakes out, we can definitely sort you guys into a Spec Force regiment that would make sense given your capabilities. Because it sounds like that's the kind of thing you guys want to undertake anyways.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with Stark? Because we kind of showed your tree earlier on, and I think you probably have the clearest idea of what you want to do with your character. Why don't you kind of give us an idea of what you're thinking? And I think you're still muted, so before we talk, unmute yourself. Can he hear us? Maybe?
Yeah, I was muting because I was having to chat. So if you want to hear my keyboard,
Clackety clack.
I already forgot to mute it like twice.
That's good.
So I already decided that I wanted to be a diplomat of some kind, probably an ambassador, maybe an analyst. I'm still thinking ambassador. Maybe I can use that, whatever planet. Was it Mandalore? Was that the planet?
Yeah.
I mentioned Mandalore. It's not required. Like, a knowledge of available mercenary forces in the criminal underworld would be helpful potentially later on. But
I actually had a good idea for that one.
okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Go for
That's
it.
okay.
What's your idea?
So my character, she is married, and I don't know if her husband is alive or dead, but I definitely think he's Mandalorian. So
That is a
help
strange
capacity.
pairing, because did you not mention earlier that your character is born on Naboo?
She is.
Essentially.
However, recall that Padme Amidala and Duchess Satine were very good friends. So
That's true too.
That is very true. Good call.
and the rebellion is the great equalizer, you guys.
That's true.
Yeah, that's why
Especially in
the
Rogue trailer, they made it the equalizer.
Oh yeah.
Mon Calamari ambassador is on this strike team.
If people watching don't know what a Mon Calamari is, it's
Admiral Akbar. It's a trap.
Yeah,
It's a trap.
He's pretty
I'm a
iconic.
fish.
He's in the newest movie, but yeah, it's a trap. It's pretty awesome. So that's what Stark's gonna be.
You're not wrong, Josh. It is a strange pairing, but it's all the more interesting because of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I love it. I think it's like the weirdest odd couple I could have thought of, really. So I really like it.
Nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first idea I had, and I have no idea how law-friendly this is going to be or whatnot, but you said this was going to be like a strike team sent on some reasonably high-level mission.
I guess I should probably just tell you.
I mean, no, that's fine. Like, that vagueness is fine as long as.
No,
that
I mean, because it's not going to be a surprise to your characters as to why you're there. Like, you guys are going to know why you're on this Imperial Research Station.
Yeah.
Let's save it for the next stream. Don't worry.
Yeah, just save it. Save
Okay.
it. But
Okay.
my idea is that maybe some of the higher up people, such as maybe Mr. Akbar himself, said, "Hey, I've got this underling, and I'm going to send him to watch this squad and see how good they are."
So you're a performance evaluation officer.
That was just my first idea that I came up with at 2 a.m.
I'm actually okay with that. I think that's pretty cool. But the only thing I'm going to caution then is if you're sent there to just observe their performance, and you're building a character around diplomacy who could arguably lead the group, how will that affect your character's ability to advocate?
I mean, it's going to be practical as well. Like, it's a potential leader type character in terms of diplomacy. Like, he's not just going to be sitting there and like, "All right, guys, off we go. I'm just going to stand here at the back. Good luck."
You may begin whenever you're ready.
Yeah, he's going to like.
Okay, well that's cool. That's cool.
He's going to be like keeping in mind like just, I don't know, something to evaluate back if we survive.
Which is always up in the air in Rebellion. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I kind of like that. So I think Ambassador could work. Analyst is not bad for that either. I think Analyst has a lot of cool skills.
I'm thinking Analyst is probably going to be more useful and make more sense.
Analyst is almost definitely going to be more useful because that tree is great.
So I'm probably just going to end up picking that one.
We don't have to pick what's useful though. Like, pick whatever.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Ambassador is probably going to be useless.
Don't knock it till you try it. I mean, the other thing too is like we have XP and we can kind of branch out in any way we want, right? So yeah,
I'm going to be an analyst. Decision
made.
So I didn't actually tell you guys this, but I'm giving you guys post character creation XP of 200 XP.
Oh my goodness.
That's a lot.
Wow,
that's a lot.
Go us.
You guys are experienced Rebellion veterans.
Nice.
Awesome.
A fan.
And we can stick that into the career trees, right?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want with it, except spend it on characteristics. You're not allowed to spend that 200 chunk on characteristics, because you can only buy characteristics at character creation. And then, like I said, the only way after character creation to increase characteristics by XP is getting to the bottom of a tree and getting that delicious dedication talent, which allows you to increase it by 1.
Alright, I'll just be an ambassador. Let's go.
What? Why did the extra XP change your mind?
Look, I'm gonna be. I don't know.
Here's the other option. Here's the other option. You could take Diplomat Ambassador to start, and then spend 20 XP to get the Analyst tree, and that would also give you a bunch of bonus career skills from the Analyst
You
list.
could be both if you really want to.
The Analyst list is really good, actually. Because you get computers, knowledge education, knowledge warfare, and perception. And computers is always good. Computers is a great skill. I love it. So.
I think I'm just picking ambassador because I like the story part of it and not the tree part of it.
To me, that's the
fine.
best way to pick a specialization.
That is 100%
Whatever
fine.
The story part you like.
As long as the tree itself helps you tell that story. Like, the title ambassador is not... Like, the tree's called ambassador, but it doesn't necessarily make you specifically an ambassador unless you want that to be the case. So.
Do you want to be an ambassador of a certain group or planet, or what were you thinking? Like, how did you think your ambassador was going to be tied to the rebellion? Did you think about that?
I mean, it would be an ambassador to a group or a planet or a... something.
Like, do you want to be like a Moncal ambassador, like for your planet, or did you go somewhere else or join some sort of group? Or
well, with your previous suggestion, you could easily be like an ambassador for Alliance High Command, basically. Trying, like you said, you were evaluating this group, so you're trying to figure out how effective a group they are.
Someone wants you to be an ambassador to Endor.
Our planet has a Death Star in orbit around it.
Maybe that's why you joined. You're a friend of the Ewoks. You know, fish, Ewoks, pretty good combo, right?
I think that sounds like maybe too ridiculous.
That is too ridiculous.
That's 2 R323 levels.
Oh no!
But if you want ridiculous, you go back to YouTube and watch the previous 6 episodes. I'm trying to tone it down for this.
Trying to sober it up a little bit.
Yeah.
As usual, Stark, Twitch chat is your Achilles heel. Both in your duties as moderator, and also as you attempt to build a character, which apparently should be an Ewok ambassador.
There's got to be other things on Endor than Ewoks, right? Or is it
No.
just
Yeah, there's trees.
Well, there are
You can
trees.
be an ambassador to trees. I mean, you like ultimate tree hugger, right?
Yeah, Endor does not have a government that would be recognized by any. Yeah.
Yeah, I think being an ambassador to like the upper parts of the rebellion works, and like I go down to the lower parts and see what works and what doesn't and whatnot. So that also makes sense to merge it between ambassador and analyst.
Yeah, no, knowledge warfare, I think, makes a lot of sense in that specific context, especially because if you're trying to figure out what works for the rebellion, you have to sort of know what the current order of battle is anyways. And I don't think that Diplomat gets knowledge warfare by default. No, they do not.
No.
So yeah, so I actually think that's a really cool concept, and it would actually be a very fun character to play because you have the social and the knowledge side potentially in the same character, which is really cool.
I just probably suck at shooting a gun.
Combat.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
I just hit them with my
500
guild or
XP, you
something.
could probably do something with it. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Yeah, you could always take recruit tree too if you want to get combat skills. So.
I could do.
So I think we're actually going to take a bit of a break, just a couple minutes to give us a bio break, and then we'll be right back. And we haven't heard much from Game Face Killer yet.
Yeah.
So when we get back,
Gabe, you're on deck, buddy.
We'll start with Game Face Killer. Because the more we talk about our own characters, the more it allows us to kind of expand our characters based on what we're hearing from everyone else. So I think it's a good idea that we hear from everyone. So we will be back in just a couple minutes. See you soon.